Good. All right, well, let's get started. Dude, it's VBA. It's a hateful language, but it's true. It's truly hateful. I use it daily, and I hate it. That is important.
I hate it. It hates me.
It's mutual. It's just like, and by all means, please interrupt, ask questions. Like, I'd much rather this be like a conversation and something versus me just like talking at you for an hour, because that is so boring. So that's me. I'm Michelle. I'm the Chief Creative and co-founder of Dragon's Next Games. I have a LLC, Artemic Games, that I've done so far. I was co-founder of Fisher's Games, which was a board game company. I've done most of my professional career in systems design, so spreadsheet land is what I do. I get happy to do my taxes. They fill me with joy. That's the kind of person I am. I have an applied methods degree and an opera degree, because it turns out opera is an even shittier industry to try to get into than gaming. Oh my god. Because there are no jobs in opera. So there's a bunch of crap I've worked on. I wrote a book about Unity and some other stuff, lots of games. A bunch of stuff I can't talk about, which is why they're just blue boxes that say titles, because you're not in game development until you've had projects canceled, and oh my fucking god. And most importantly, I am not an engineer, I am a designer. I have a math degree with a minor in computer science, but I'm gonna do this because did I get C's in some of my classes? Fuck yes. So if you are an engineer, I'm gonna apologize for my shit ass code in advance, because it's not beautiful, it's functional, and then the engineers just shake their head whenever they give it to them. They're like, I can do better. I'm like, I know, that's why I'm being here. We're fine. So what are we doing today? We're just going to basically like introduce everybody to VBA if you don't know what that is, real basic syntax, how to use it, how not to. It is not the best, it's not a beautiful language, let's be clear. I like it better than Python, but that's not saying much, because I hate Python with 1,000 burnings, like passion of 1,000 suns, I hate it. But it's also not, you have to use Excel's really crappy IDE that's built into you. You can't like take it into Writer or Visual Studio, so you gotta deal with the thing that sucks. We're gonna look at a couple of different examples for what you can do with VBA, like why would you like make yourself live this pain? There's a reason why I insist my design teams use Excel and not Google Sheets, and a lot of it is because of this. Excel is just a superior piece of software at the end of the day. I know Google is free, but it is not a replica by any means for what you can do in Excel. And we're gonna look a little bit at user forms and how you can collect user data. And by user at this point, I mean dev team. It's going to be your QA team, your designers. How are they going to use these things? Because at the end of the day, these are tools. They're not just spreadsheets that you can store data and look at it. They are tools in their own right, which is super fun. And yeah, we're just going to look at some, as I said, examples of doing things. And again, you can laugh at me, and I will not be sad. My code is crap, absolutely. We are not going to do live coding unless you guys wish there's time, because it will go wrong always. And yeah, so we're going to try to avoid that at all costs. I took videos of things just to be on the safe side, because it always goes wrong. So just to get started, let's look at a couple of actual real life examples. These are all my sheets from different companies I've worked at, from different projects. We're going to go from like some really basic, like what you expect. That is a spreadsheet. Oh wow, it is really fucking blurry. Trust me that is a spreadsheet of game data. Damn, that's blurry. Is there a way to like focus this? I don't even know how to use this thing. Hello? Well, trust me. So like you've got like, you know, items over here. These are their names, the asset names, what kind of things, their abilities. You can make cute little check boxes and trend lines in Excel cells. It doesn't have to just be data that you type in, so then you can then filter on whether this thing is like that type of decoration, yes or no. I like having things that are visual like that, because then you can canvas it into QA and be like, oh, I can just filter down this column. Like, yes, you can. It just makes it look pretty. Speaking of pretty, you know it's one of my spreadsheets if it looks like a unicorn barfed on it and died, because I use colors everywhere. This is a sheet from Cityville 2 back in the Zynga days. This was actually, I know it looks stupid and terrible, but this thing is actually that ran the entire monetization of the game right here. So like it was simulating by sessions, like over here, that's session numbers, how many times they played per day, how long they were in it, and at this point it was calculating out using both kind of like estimated data and real data how far a player was expected to get by the end of that session, so then we knew how to monetize against it as best. And so basically, over here that was cut off. There was a how much money they were expected to have at that point, because money was one of the easiest ways to monetize, and it was negative swiftly by design, because if you were in the hole, guess what you wanted to do? Spend real money to get out of the hole. It was a horrible place. Like, we designed for evil, we did bad things. This is another sheet from that same game. I know! It's so beautiful! That is actually what an engineer said. He was like, what the fuck is that? I'm like, this is your data for when little simulators, the little guys, the Zims, when they walk around the streets. If they're gonna like populate all the stores and shop there or not. He's like, what the actual? So like, trust me, it makes sense once I walk you through it. He was like, no. I don't want to deal with this anymore. But again, this is not VBA, this is just pure Excel math and doing estimations on if you have like 5 little citizens walking around a city of this size, how much of the storefronts are they going to visit or not, which was your economy, and that's how they actually bought goods and you got money. And so it was this thing of like, the green means the player's doing too good and we're losing money. The red means we want them down there. So then those are different stripes for cohorts. Yeah, cool. And here's how we actually start to get to actual, what do I call, like, the tooling spreadsheets. So this is a sheet from my current game, my current company right now. I do have copies of this on here that, time permitting, we can like goof around and play with. And this is a small enough room, we might even just be able to like huddle around the laptop, because I realize I can't see shit. This is terrible. But so these are basically the kind of sheets that I use, do my testing, and then hand off to engineering. Anything that's that big blue thing, that's a button you can press, and they've got like reroll calcs everywhere. So it lets me do things like test combat very, very swiftly. So this entire thing is I got the entire combat for our game running in Excel, and I can just wail on that reroll calculation button as many times as I need to test out, is it giving like realistic answers for normal, partial, and critical damage without having to ever give this to engineering. So I can vet. My numbers make me happy. And in this previous example, I can see there's over here, like copy over data. These are drop downs where I can have all the enemies in the game. I have all different levels of the character in the game. I can copy the data over into the fields, scale it by level, because I've got a level scaling system because I'm lazy and that's how we do things. And then run literally thousands of tests by clicking the button before ever going into the game. And all that button does is that. It says activate sheet.calculate. That's it. Because everything this is like baby VBA sheet. Everything's done in Excel math in the actual cells, but then, otherwise you have to know to hit like F9 to calculate the sheet, but people don't know that, because again, this is a tool that I can hand off to somebody where they see a reroll cap button, they're like, I can hit the button. Like, yes, you can, sir, you know what that is. This was something I built for a friend, because they were DM for D&D, and they got tired of making encounters, because they thought it was boring. So this is basically an encounter D&D generator, where you give it all these inputs over here, and again, this is what I'm talking about, user forms. So you put in like what's your average player level, how many characters are in the party right now, if you have a specific environment that you want them to be in, how difficult it is, and you hit the button, and then it prints out the encounter. You're like, here you go, there's my sample encounter. If you didn't like it, generate a new one. And you can even print them out to a PDF. Here you go, yay! So this was all definitely mostly VBA stuff, but again, run by tables, it's not hard. This is again a sheet, current company. We have a procedural dungeon system. So when you go out into the world, it's kind of like Hades-esque where it's room-based, and wanted to basically prototype out this entire system before handing it off to engineering. So like, what biomes is it selecting per room? How many rooms is it being generated based on the number of players? What modifiers are being applied to the room? So all of this is being handled with like game logic in Excel, in VBA, and all I can do is click the giant create adventure info, and it will spit out a procedural dungeon for me. And it takes like maybe a second to generate, which is great. I don't have to go into the game and actually like play. You should test your game at some point, but this is so much faster, and I can validate, does this seem reasonable? And that's really at the end of the day what you're trying to do is, does this seem reasonable? Let's see. Oh, here's the video. Is it playing? Yes. Oh, you can barely see my mouse moving. So those are inputs up there. I always use orange for input, so it's people know what to do. These are sliders. So you can actually change these weights for like how much you want your biome to go, yes or no, or you can just type into the box, because some people prefer to type a number. You can do that. It's all pretty straightforward to use. Oh god, it's so blurry. Hit that. You can also randomize the values if you don't want to deal with it. Always add a randomization thing. There's extra check boxes for like, I want to include a boss, yes or no, and then click the button. And if you scroll down, here's 20 different rooms. These got these, there's a boss room at the end, there's modifiers. Let's try it again. Let's change this. Change it to a larger one, randomize it, click it again. It's a different list of rooms, yay! And so it's very, very, very fast to validate, does my design make sense? Because at the end of the day, that's what we should all be trying to do. And then another one, cool. Oh my god. This is almost running off of game data. There's table data, because Excel. Use tables. Here we go. So you see all my modifiers, all my weights. And then here's like an example of the actual list. God, it's fuzzy, but you can kind of see this time. It's got a list. I didn't bother doing the linkages of the rooms because that's their problem. I don't want to deal with that. You can in Excel, you can 100% do like node graphing and all that stuff. I have a different example where it gets very complicated with cameras. There is a camera in Excel. You can do crazy things, crazy beautiful things. I got lazy and I didn't here for this one. But yeah, here's some example of the code that you can't read at all because it's fuzzy. So basically all it's doing, it's just some glorified fucking if-else statements and loops. It's just simple stuff of checking weights, making decisions, picking some not random, they're procedural numbers, there is a difference, and then spitting it back out to Excel. And this basically then when I gave it to engineering, or the engineer Yegi was like, God, I fucking hate this language. I'm like, I know, but then he can look at this and be like, yeah, I can implement that in C#, no problem. And it's a guide for him. And then he's basically got this calculator. He's like, is it giving the same results? Is it deterministic? Yes, wonderful, I've done it right. Because then it also gives him confidence that he did it correctly. Because otherwise he has to hand it back and be like, is it good? I'm like, I don't know, is it? You tell me. Yes, and yes, there is a go-to in there because VBA survives on go-tos. So, as I said, if you're an engineer, laugh, it's fine, it's totally fine. This is the, this one, if we do have time, I do want to run live, and you guys might have to come around. This was from Ara. Ara was a 4X game I worked on at Oxide, and as a 4X game, it had, combat being one of the huge things, but it was all army-based combat. It was very complicated, very large, with the idea being you would pick formation types, like right flanks, Vs, lines, tercios, and then once you had your formation type, you would put individual little units into the slots. And it was 3D spatial, so like you can see here, it mattered where they were in the formation, that when they clashed, damage was different, who attacked who was different, there was different modifiers and abilities based on like, if you put like a tanky in the back, he got a different bonus than if it was a ranged guy. So this was a very complicated tool that simulated all of that game logic for how to generate and how to create these formations, and then you could clash them together with a button and actually have to run all the game code to simulate the battle. Because this took a long time to actually test this in the game, but this was something you could do. And it would print out all the results. It was wasn't turn-based, but it was round-based, and like what each enemy did to someone else, and then give you a little tally over the side of like, this is how much total damage was done, this is where like the health is, so you can get a very easy idea of like, are my numbers for each of these individual units reasonable? Are these formation bonuses reasonable? Yes, wonderful. Is this a video? Maybe. Oh yeah. Yeah, so these are all drop downs, which you can't see because apparently it didn't pick that up on the recording software. That's beautiful, I love it, wonderful. Those are drop downs, we'll do this live. But see, when I said there's camera, that's what this is. There's this hidden spreadsheet tab over here where it's got another sheet that it's got a camera faced on it, and it is just now live hooking into those things into here. So you can't fuck this up if you're a user. Like, you can't touch this. It's just basically printing to a texture there. And then it prints out live. Here you go. That's my battle results. Everyone alive? Everyone's still alive. Yay! Italian. So tooling, and then QA definitively made huge use of this because it was so much easier for them to be like, does this make sense? Am I getting numbers in the game the same? Yes. Wonderful. Oh my god. I don't know what that is. Alright, oopsies. This is the stupidest one I've ever made. Just to prove that it doesn't have to be math-based. Excel, it's grid paper. It's just grid paper if you change the cell sizes. So anything with grid paper, like say making maps, you can have Excel make procedural maps for you. Again, this is for my D&D friend. He got tired of making podunk little villages, and he hated drawing them, but players always were like, well, what's the village look like? He's like, fuck, I don't care. I'm like, all right, I can make you a procedural town generator. It's going to be slow AF. Is it the most inefficient code of no demand? You bet. Well, I'm not going to run this one live because it takes 10 minutes to generate a map. You're just like, did I kill my computer? No, it's still running. Oh my god, don't brute force things, it's horrible. But you can pick base terrains, like do you want kind of roads, how big is your map going to be? There's a couple of other things in it too, but then it will generate a little map for you. That's visual, like, oh, it's like there's my map. And it all is just running off of fucking table data. Like, this is defining what all the different buildings are, where they start with the end. And again, it's grid paper. These aren't images. These are just changing the color background of an Excel cell. And then these are just border formatting. And you can even, within Excel, you can change the borders of cells to be diagonal. Why? Because now I made a circle. Yeah! So none of that is like images. So if you want to make new buildings, you just keep going in this other sheet and draw new little buildings in Excel natively. You don't need art skills, just add it to the table, and then the next time you generate, it might pull that new building. I can put all these sheets up online somewhere. Again, I'm not running this because it will fry this whole little laptop. It is not friendly. It's a very, very bad thing. So now that you see what you can do with it, it's not just make spreadsheets. Like, you can run and create games. Someone did make Doom in Excel. That is true. It is real. You can play it. Like, that is the kind of level of crap you can do with VBA. So what the fuck is VBA? I'm trying to actually define what this is. VBA is Visual Basic. It's been around since 1993. You can use it pretty much across all different Microsoft Office applications. They do allow it to talk to each other. So if you wanted Excel to create an email in Outlook, you can have it do that. I know it's riveting. Woo! You can have it print out a Word document. Woo! You can't run it as a standalone program. Like you can't make it create like an exe. There is a plugin that'll do it for you, but it's really been made to like, it's supposed to be something you're running natively in the program itself. And it is unfortunately turned off by default because Microsoft doesn't trust you as an adult. So you have to go into the file options, customize ribbon, and then go find it way down on the popular commands and under the main one. It's down here. It is the only one turned off by default because what the actual fuck, Microsoft. So you have to turn that on. And then once you do, you'll get a lovely new tab up at the top called Developer. And this is where you're going to spend all your time. So over here, oh god. This is going to give you your IDE. This is if you actually want to record macros and then edit them later, that'll let you do that. And then insert and design mode are the other two ones that you're going to be using all the time. Those are the big important buttons. Pretty much never need the other stuff, but there. However, if that wasn't bad enough, as of May this year, Microsoft decided to make it even harder to use VBA. And ActiveX controls. ActiveX are basically like the checkboxes, radio buttons, drop downs, all the fun little actual user controls. Because they decided that obviously people just must be trying to like put viruses on your computer if you're making VBA and Excel. I'm like, I hate you so much. So it's all disabled now by default since May. You have to go in to the Trust Center and turn on everything individually. It is a pain in the ass. So if you see this red horrible line on top of the spreadsheet, this is why. It's not that hard to change. There's actually two things you have to do. First, if you downloaded a spreadsheet from anywhere else, even if you are the author, even if it is under the same goddamn Microsoft account, you have to go unblock your own fucking file if you move it to a new computer. So just right-click Properties, click the unblock file, and it's fine, and I'll get rid of that first red bar. And then if you open up the file again, you'll get two new yellow security bars, which is then when you have to go into the Trust Center, and they go under ActiveX settings and macro settings, and say you want to the bottom one, enable all of them. Yes, I want all of them. I'm gonna give myself viruses. I don't care, Microsoft. Enable all my shit. Then you have to save the file, close the file, reopen the file, and then forever on you'll be fine. But don't get annoyed if you're like, why is everything broken? That's why Microsoft doesn't want to trust you. Cool, so we've done that now. Yay. All right, now we'll actually get to let's look at code, which is what I'm learning. Yay. The basics of VBA are subs and functions. They are not the same thing. Subs are basically subroutines. They are the basic procedures. They do not return any value. They just run and do a thing. The other thing to know about subs is that you cannot use them in a cell as a mathematical thing. They are something you must call and run either via a button or a control click or some other method to access it. Functions, however, are mandatory, must return a value, and you can run them in cells, which is actually really cool. So if you want to write new kinds of functions for your own little cell math, you can do that and have it in there, and then you can call it from anywhere in the sheet, which is really, really fun. They're written very much the same way. So over here is the subs. You just start it with sub, give it a name, some parentheses, that's where your parameters would go. So fine, and then in sub, and then you just type whatever the hell you want on the inside. To call it from anywhere else, you just call it by the name of the sub, which in this case is draw roads, and then all this bullshit after it. Those are the arguments, the parameters for that function. Note there are no parentheses for a sub. You just list the arguments right afterwards. Like, why? I don't know, just deal with it. Whereas with a function, here you're going a function, it's called find spot. Here's again some parameters. And then you define the return type over here as a Boolean or as an integer or as whatever fuck type you want. Does a bunch of stuff. To return the value, there is no return keyword. You just set the value of the name of the function to whatever the hell you want to return. Okay, that's fine. Weird, but not insane. But then if you want to call a function, you've got to use parentheses for the arguments. Unlike that one. Why? The fuck knows. Just don't ask why. Just memorize it. It's so obnoxious, but just remember functions need parentheses, subs don't. Functions return by setting the value to the name of the function. Subs don't do any of that. Cool. Ranges and cells are pretty much like the main data type that almost everything gets done in because it's a spreadsheet program at the end of the day, so where you're storing data in ranges and cells. And so this is how you access it. basically, let's see, you use the keywords dim and set, which we'll get to in just a second, to declare something as a range. And a range is just any block of cells from like A1 to F15. It doesn't matter, it's whatever. And a cell could be a cell, or it could actually be a range of cells from A1 to F15. Why? Just don't worry about it, it's fine. And you kind of call them the same way, where you could have a range. This could have just been like A1 in quotes, and that would have been fine. But you can also define a range, in this case it's a table range, and then call the cells on it as well, and then work within a subset of cells within the range, which is a little annoying to kind of think about and wrap your head around, because everything is basically now you're dealing with 2D matrices constantly, and I fucking hate linear algebra, so this hurts my brain all the time. But it is very, very powerful, so it lets you iterate and loop over data all over the place by column or a row or however you want, very, very strong. Oh, and just as an aside, it says list object, that's not a list, that's a table. Why is it not called a table? I don't know. Don't ask questions, just memorize. So dim is the word you're going to be using to declare pretty much all your variables. It stands for dimension, and you're allocating memory for that. Is all it means. It's just old school 90s crap talk. There is redim, which lets you then resize that chunk of memory. You pretty much only use that for arrays, because when you define an array, or dimension an array, you're defining it dynamically by default. And you can then redim that array to a static size, or you can also redim that array to a different static size. And you would use the preserve keyword down there at the bottom to have it not delete your data. Because if you redim an array, it's going to delete your data without using preserve. Please. But yeah, pretty much everything uses dim if it's going to be a new variable type. And VBA does have a fairly comprehensive list of built-in variable types. It's all the basic ones you would want, like booleans and integers and longs and currency, I guess, maybe. Again, list object is a table, not a list. Workbook refers to the entire Excel document itself. Worksheet refers to just one of those tab sheets along the bottom. And then there's the fucking variant. Don't use that. That is like the goddamn Lua, I can do whatever the hell I want type. You can put whatever you want in me. It is what it will define by default if you don't say like dim as. Please don't ever use variants. They're just, no, your life is pain. Don't do that to yourself. Worksheets, you'll actually use more frequently than you think you will, just because to access any kind of either function like ran between or a square root or anything that is defined already in cell math, you have to reference it from a worksheet, which is obnoxious as all fuck, but you do. You also, if you want to reference any one of the kind of special ActiveX controls, like a checkbox or a radio button, you have to reference it from a worksheet. You can't just say, like, I know the name of this control. It's radio button 152. They're like, but what sheet is it on? So just, you're going to be using sheet objects a lot. And it's, pretty straightforward. It's just worksheets. And then you have to reference which sheet it is, either by the index it is in the list, which you'll see when we open up the IDE. They're just kind of numbered starting at 1, not 0, because life is pain. Or you can type in the name that you've named it along the bottom. You can obviously also use a variable for the name, like you could say like my sheet equal map, and then it's smart enough to know that. I actually tend to use names to reference sheets, even though I know that means if I ever rename it, everything will break. Only because later on when I go read this, I know what map sheet means. If I see worksheets 2, I'm like, what the fuck is worksheets 2? I don't know. So yes, I'm willing to accept the rename pain just to make it clear to myself when I go back in 6 months being like, self, what did I do? I did that. You can use the terms sheets and worksheets for the most part interchangeably. They're really not the same thing. Worksheet is a subset of the data type sheet because there's also like chart sheets and like pivot table sheets. Don't worry about it. You can just pretty much use sheets or worksheets. I usually use sheets because I don't like typing and it's shorter, so it's good. It's fine, don't worry about it. As I said, list objects are tables. And if you're not using tables in Excel, I will say you're doing it wrong. This is one of the few things that, it's one of the big things that Excel has done right that Google is still kind of trying to catch up on. So you can define a range of cells as a table, which you just do by, up here in the ribbon bar, there's just literally just like either, what's it called? You can like condition format as table or go to insert table. Either way does the exact same thing. It gives you a header bar, it gives you pre-built-in filtered capabilities, but then what it also gives you is all of this, and this is why tables are superior to just lists of numbers. A table by definition has these data parts built into it. It has ranges, which is the entire damn thing. Header row range, which is just a header, you'll never do that in your life. Data body range, that's the important thing. That is the actual meat and potatoes of the data, and you can now reference that directly. You can also now iterate over that using index counters and variables, that's where all your fancy data lookup for how to incorporate your game data into VBA and into these toolings, it all happens here. So by all means, please, please, please use tables, because then also if you ever resize that table or add new stuff to it or decrease the size of it, it's smart enough, it knows what you did. You're not then defining, well, I wanted A15 to F15, but oh, I added 2 more lines, and now it's got to go to I15, you have to go change that. No. Just use a table. Data body range will always update to be the entire body of the table, which is wonderful. Yay! Some more basics. VBA does have conditionals, woohoo. You know, it's pretty straightforward. If, else, and then end if. You got to end it. And there, you notice there's no parentheses, there's no curly braces in VBA. It's all just done by declaring a thing and then ending it with the word end. White space doesn't matter. This isn't like Python, so if you want to end it to your heart's content, it don't care, which I like because I can't stand someone telling me how to use my white space. It really just cares where the end statement is. You can also do if statements as a single line if they are simple. So either way is fine. It also has a couple of different kinds of loops. There are for loops, for each, do whiles, and do untils. Again, there are no braces, and so to iterate over a for loop, you use the keyword next, which is weird, but it is what it is. So in this example here, say 4 words, there's my variable from equals 10 to 1, and by default, the for loop will always count up from whatever number you set, but you can tell it to step down by 1 or up by 2, whatever the hell you want using the keyword step, which is cool. And then the next for loop, you see it just saying from character 0 to 9, where it's just assuming I'm going to iterate up over that. And you call the next iteration of the for loop by using the word next. Next chars, so then it'll go up to the next one. Instead of saying I++, there we go, next. Next words, it'll decrease down, in this case, to the next one. It's kind of hateful, because I would much rather be able to see this by braces, but it does make it very readable to non-techie people, because then you can kind of just read this like English. Not that I have a ton of people right now, but at my previous company, I had a design team where only like 2 of us were super techie, and the rest weren't, but they could still read through this, because they're like, oh, it's kind of English-esque. It looks very much like pseudocode, so it wasn't too scary to them. Loops are the same thing. You use loop to signify that it is the next iteration of the loop. Right here. You can also loop until some check is true or false, and it will exit. I don't use a lot of do's, honestly. It's mostly things I use are for loops. You do you though. If you want to exit out of a loop early, you just use the keyword exit. You say exit for, exit do, and that's it. You can also use go-tos. Don't be like me, don't use go-tos. Don't do it. ActiveX. So this is where you're going to start to really play with that tooling and give users and players the control to do stuff. ActiveX controls are reached from that developer tab in the ribbon, and that's what this insert, oh God, I wish you could see that better, is. Ignore this. The top part of this is form controls. You don't want form controls. I hate with 1,000 burning suns that this is the same fucking box. This is for creating special UI. If you want to create an actual like floaty UI window and like have stuff, wonderful. If you just want to drop a control into the page directly, you're going to want ActiveX. They are very different. They have different syntax. You do not reference them the same way at all. Don't. We'll look at that maybe at the end, but you want ActiveX. There's a bunch of built-in ones that are automatically on there that are pretty useful. Yeah, that's just like doing that. Cool. Oh no. Yeah, so here's the ActiveX one over here. That first one is a button. You can use it to make a button. I think it's hateful and it's stupid. It just makes these ugly ass gray command buttons. They're horrible. You can't format them. They're just ugly and terrible, and you can do better than that. So honestly, as you've seen in the other sheets, I don't use buttons. I use shapes. Because again, this is supposed to be friendly to other people at the end of the day. It's a tool. So you go just like, insert shape. You can change the shape color. You can change the font on the button. You can make it look really pretty and clickable. You're like, I want to hit that button. Where's the one above it? No, I don't. That gray button's hideous. So I do implore you to please think outside the box. You don't have to use shapes, but don't use the command button. It's terrible. And to assign either a macro that you recorded or a VBA sub, not a function, because you're not returning values from this button. You just right-click on it, go to Assign Macro, and it'll bring up this little window over here. You can either use the new button to create a new subroutine that it will just the name, actually based on whatever the name of the button is, or it'll just see a list of all the public subs and existing subs. And yes, you can have private and public. It does understand that it's public by default. And you can just say click one if there was an existing one. If you said click new, this is what would happen. It would open up the VBA IDE for you automatically. It will place it in a new module, which is over here. Modules. Modules is how it stores all of your custom code in a sheet. You can create multiple modules if you say I have something really complicated. The Army sheet does use multiple modules just because there's so much goddamn code that's running, but most things I usually just use one because it's not much. And then just renamed it rectangle, rounded corners 1. Click. Yeah, thank you, VBA, that's beautiful. If up here, actually we can do this too, but this is a shortcut, easy way then to see all your subs to like jump between them, and then this lets you give you all the different events that come with all the different things. So there is always an on-click event. There's also like on mouse pointer up or down or on hover enter. They have all of those events for you, so you can get really, really fancy with some of these things. Just be mindful that you're not doing horrible things on mouse over because things happen. So why would you want to use buttons? Because that's how people interact with shit. It makes it very easy to run your code, to refresh counts, to assign random values, to run all your complicated game logic. I don't like relying on the magical F9 button, which is also a recalculate sheet, because if you don't know about it, you don't know about it. I like having very, very clear call to actions, again, for users, because users are going to break shit. That's what they do. Let's say we want to do something a little bit more complicated. You can get more data from them. This is just an aside on data formatting. So if you go to cell styles, and this is on like the home, I believe, tab, not home, the file one, no, yes, home, of the ribbon bar, they've already got predefined styles for you. And look, I'm not going to tell you how to organize your shit, but this is kind of standard. And if you see like, oh, if it's red, it's bad. If it's neutral, it's yellow. And then for the data model one that I circled, inputs are orange, calculated steps are white with an orange text, notes are yellow. So if you use these, it then becomes a common knowledge that anyone who uses your tools, uses your sheets, understands if they see an orange box, it means I can interact with that box. So having a visual language that you adhere to is actually really, really important, just tool design. And these are there for you, so by all means you can use them, but you do you if you want to arrange different ones. But again, I am the world's laziest systems designer, so if they've already got this, I'm using it because fuck that, I got better things to do. Very, very easy to grab individual cell data. So like in this one, this horrible example, type in a number, it's orange, therefore, hey user, orange box. You can type it in. There's a shortcut. Instead of having to say sheets, my test calcs, you could just say active sheet, and that just means whatever this current sheet is that you're looking at, that the user has looking at, you can say, on whatever sheet that is, grab the range that is in L4 right here. Now, if you then put that button on some other sheet, guess what active sheet is? It's over there. Use this at your own peril. I'm lazy again, I use it all the time, but just be mindful of what you can do. But then you can store that value into any old variable. I stored it as a long, because I don't know what the hell they're gonna type into there. And you can spit it out into a message box using the subroutine that's built in called MSG box, message box. Because it's a subroutine, there are no parentheses, and it says my number is, use the ampersand to concatenate, and then my variable, and it poops up a little box. You can say, my number is that thing, yay! I know it's a very stupid example, but taking data, showing it back is very easy. What if they didn't type in a number? Because I didn't have any, I just said type in a number, but they could have typed in Fred. What would happen? You need to basically put in data validation and restrict people as much as possible, because I cannot iterate this enough. Try as you might, people are going to break things. You can put instructions on the page. I've built whole user forms of beautiful instructions of like, this is the checklist to walk down, and they still mess it up. I'm like, I don't know. Oh my God, just give me free instructions. People don't read. You can protect entire worksheets. You can protect entire ranges where they won't accept clicks if you really want to get super pedantic, and sometimes you do want to get super pedantic. Otherwise, you can do data validation on individual cells, and this is usually good enough. So if you go over to the data tab over in Excel, over here, there's this beautiful data validation button, which is far off to the right. And you want the first one in the drop down, and it's going to open up a dialog based on whatever cell or cells you have highlighted. And that'll then let you pick some kind of value type, including custom ones that you define here. I can accept numbers, decimals, text, strings, whatever. And then it will basically do a check on that to make sure the user typed in something correctly. And then based on whatever it is, like for whole number, you can actually have it say, well, I want a whole number between 0 and 30. And if it's not between that, spit out an error. And it will, like a big pop-up, it won't let them continue. Like it's very forceful, thank God, on how it handles it. You can have greater than, less than, all these kinds of things, which is super nice. So by all means, you should be using data validation. Anytime you have an input box, do it. The other thing to do to make sure users won't break your stuff, because they will, is use drop-down lists. So you could have them type in like an interpreter, like, I want to see the like cat monster, but then did they capitalize it? Did they not? Did they put a space? Who the fuck knows what they did? So no, you want to use a drop-down list that is created automatically from your own data so that it's just very easy. You know exactly what that data format is going to be all the damn time. That's pretty easy to do. There are two ways to do it. I like this way, again, because lazy and it's easy to update. So if you go to the Formulas tab, not the Data tab, but on the Formulas tab, there is a Name Manager button over here that will let you basically highlight a bunch of cells, arrange, and then give it a formalized name, almost like declaring a variable, almost, except they call it a named range. Yay. So you go to New, you type in a little name, and that'll be your variable name now forever and ever, and then you can give it a reference. You can either highlight a contiguous block of cells, or like in this case that you can't see at all because it's blurry, I have it this exact cell plus this range of cells, and it's like, yeah, that's cool. So it will then say this name range is that and this thing over there. Don't do that, but you can. It's fine. And then it'll show up in this list over here, and then it's very, very easy. Anytime you want to edit it, just click the edit button, and you can redefine the name, the actual range that it refers to. But that'll then let you do things. In that data validation, there is a list option. God, you can't see that at all. So over here, trust me, this says list, and you can choose list. And then when you go to here, the source, you can either highlight something yourself and like name, this is the name of the list, or you just type in the name range itself, which is the better thing to do since you just went through all that trouble. And then anytime you change it, it'll update. And so now this cell will turn magically into a drop-down list of everything that was in your data set. And it's glorious, and it's so good. And everyone thinks you're a really fancy programmer. Like, I'm not. It's a data validation trick. It's so good. You can use radio buttons as one of the other ActiveX controls. They are honestly a pain in the ass to set up, so I don't recommend it. I know I use it for the map one just because it looks kind of fancy, but they're kind of a pain. They're down here at the bottom of the list. So there's a couple of different things. You get this by right-clicking on it. In design mode, I guess I should say, I kind of glossed over that. When you're in that developer tab, next to the insert button, see here's this design mode button, that has to be turned on. Because otherwise, when you go to interact with that button, it thinks you're trying to interact with it. So turn on design mode, and then when you can click on the control, right click on the control, and it thinks you then want to like change the control, rescale it, format it. So you do need to be in design mode to do all this stuff. But if you right click on it, go to properties, this is where you can actually change all the options. Caption is the label that is user facing, so you can type whatever you want in there. There's also other appearance things, who cares. This is the variable name, which was cleverly named option button 3. So when you're in VBA, you can reference this exact object to see what its value is. That's how you do it. This horrible thing called group name, that says all of these radio buttons belong to the same category. Because otherwise, each radio button is its own unique thing. You could just turn it on and off. Why is it not checkbox? I don't know. But then if you want to group them so that only one of these options can be on at once, you have to give them all individually the same group name. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but it works. I do have to say the worst thing about this, though, which is why I don't use these too often, although you can give them all the same group name, you can query its group name in VBA. You can't say, give me the value of the group name. No, because that would be too easy. So you do have to like set up a switch statement or if else chain to be like, is option 1 true? Is option 2 true? I hate you so much. So it's annoying. The way to kind of get around that is using linked cells. It's a little bit easier. In any of these property boxes for an ActiveX control, there's always the option to link a cell. So in this case, like in 25, it'll then poop out the value of this control over here, which is great also for debugging. If you've got really complicated things, you can always print something out like, what is the value right now anyway? And then this is very easy to grab too, then from VBA, just like, what's that cell? I don't know, that's true. Cool. We briefly mentioned message box earlier. It is actually both a sub and a function. They overrode it, so yay! So you do you can do either one. It's nice though because you can then do things like take the user response and do something else with it. So there's a lot of built-in functionality with these little things. I mean, you're never gonna get more complicated than the top one. You can choose the title, give it an icon. You can't choose whatever icon you want. There's like 4 you can pick from, and then grab the response. So they click yes, or they click no, and then do something with it. So in this case, both of them are here. So as a function, you can store its response as a VB message box result. Not a Boolean, because fuck you. God damn it. So here you go. You've got your prompt, which is what this is. VB yes, no is the kind of button. So there's a bunch of different kinds of button types that you can use, which will then change what this bottom row is, which is kind of nice, because honestly, who wants to build pop-up dialogues? I don't, so just do these. VB question, notice the plus sign at the same time as the button. Why is this not over here? I don't know, just memorize it. And the questions too, these are the icons, that's it. You can do like warnings, you can do exclamation points, information, that's the question one, ooh, yay. And then that's the title up there. And you can grab the response and basically just a crappy left thing. And then here's the sub. Notice that again, there's now no parentheses, still using it as a sub of just popping up 2 different kinds of message boxes which don't have all these different features. Okay, we're doing all right for time. User forms is the thing I mentioned. That's the thing you want to make complicated UI. That is when you would use that top part of those inserts. So in the Army test, here you can see like there's a handy dandy, I don't know what to do button. Looks like a question mark. No one ever fucking clicked this button. I didn't know how to make it more obvious that I have a helpful button. And when you did, here's the instructions for how to run the sheet. Yay! No one clicked it. But you can actually organize and create all of these UI panels from scratch. And you have all these really nice controls. You can add labels, like all this stuff. And so if you want to make these sheets look really fancy and like have all these kind of controls, you can. And they're stored in their own forms folder in the IDE. So you can, each form has its own objects basically in there. Yeah, we're now, yeah, this is also jumping around a little bit, trying to hit all the important things. So at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is look up data from your game table datas and then do stuff with it. And yeah, you can do simple things, but at this point, I'm usually trying to run game logic over the data because I want to make my programmers' lives easier. You can use worksheet functions directly from Excel, as I mentioned, which is super helpful. So like if you're used to using things like VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP or match, you can access those directly within VBA itself. You don't have to rewrite that crap yourself. You do have to call it from the sheet, which is obnoxious, or you can just do your own looping through cells, which is what I tend to prefer to do. Because at this point, if I already have the data range, I don't need to use VLOOKUP to find like where this thing is, find the index to over here. I'm just gonna say, like, I know this is the list. I know like whatever my variable is going to be my row, and then I can just iterate over the column, which is super nice, and that's all this is doing. Oh my god. So yeah, you can iterate over ranges of cells and table data using variables, which is super, super useful, which is what this is doing. As I saying, hey, I need to find this is a weighted table, by the way, like always use weighted tables, random tables are stupid. And I need to find, like, give me a number from anywhere in here, and then pick whatever my bio is going to be based on the weights that the player has given me. And it's just looping through the cells using the cells keyword. So it's a super easy way to avoid having to do VLOOKUPs, which are slow. Oh my god, they're slow. Once you've done all your fancy game data logic, like transformations, that's all great, but then you need to print it back to the end user. And that's also really, really, really simple to do. Just the main thing to remember is, if you're going to put it all in the same sheet, have a dedicated area on the sheet where you know you're never going to touch. Otherwise, this is not an undoable thing that you're going to do in VBA. There's no undo. If you clear data using VBA, it's gone. It's gone forever. You're not recovering that. Hopefully, maybe you have a backup of the file somewhere. So be very, very mindful that whenever you're starting to overwrite cell data, it is a permanent, non-reversible action. And it's very simple. Use the clear keyword. At least I did this right. Then it will, however, clear everything. It'll clear formatting, it'll clear all that stuff. And there are ways around that, but you just want to clear everything. So do that first. And then to rewrite to a cell, it's really, really simple. You just set the value of the cell to whatever the hell the variable was. So at least they did this right. And in this, so again, it's going back to that biome procedural dungeon generator. I've set up this table at the bottom. I've known like 50, I will never do anything below 50. So starting at row 51 plus whatever the hell my 4 iterator counter is, it's going to be biome, that one. Now I'll go over to the next column, 3. What's the room number? Cool, what's that one? What's the room type? Great. And so it'll just now run this in a big old loop, and it'll then generate all this stuff out super easy. It's also easy to print out to PDFs. God, you can't do that at all. That's too bad. Zoom that in. But basically, you can give it a path. You can give it a different file types. There are lots of different file types VBA will print out to. I just like PDFs because then people can't mess with them. And you just basically save it. It's super easy. And then everyone thinks you're a genius because you saved out other files from Excel. And you're like, no, it's really simple. Cool. So kind of where this leaves you now is you've seen all the different things you can do. You can make D&D props. You can create calculators for complicated game logic for you or QA or engineering to check numbers, and I cannot stress how useful it is, and QA will love you. If you give them a validation calculator for complicated code, they'll think you're the best person ever. Really, you can run a million balance checks on your numbers for engineering as even senior code, which is fantastic because you didn't waste their time or Art's time or anyone else's time being like, oh, I hope my design's right. I don't know. So yeah, you can simulate and test literally all of your designs using real game data and real game logic before you have ever touched an engine. And then they will love you, like seriously. Like I've had so many programs be like, this has been so helpful. I'm like, yes, I know, I built it for me, but I'm glad that you love it too. Yes. So we do have 14 minutes. This is a smaller group. If you guys want to actually see some of these sheets running live or poke around the code, we can do that because, yeah, I mean, this is so blurry. I apologize. Like, that's hard to see. So we can do that because I only have question time and then, oh, I guess this first. There are a lot of good resources online. Obviously, Stack Overflow has a bunch of stuff. A lot of people have asked really silly questions. They're all there. Mr. Excel, that is his name. His name is Bill Yellen, but oh my God, his website's phenomenal. He's got a YouTube channel. He has a really active forum board. He also has a whole bunch of books. I cannot stress enough how amazing this man is, and like he is the master of all things Excel and VB. And if you have a question, odds are he has answered it somewhere on the site. The Microsoft Docs are actually okay, which is weird because a lot of times their documentation is god awful, but for VBA it's actually surprisingly okay. There is a Reddit Substack, r/VBA if you want to do that instead. Another thing you can do if you're learning VBA and you're not really sure what to do, because the syntax can be very, very weird sometimes to pick up and learn, is use that record a macro button that's on the developer tab. Record whatever it is you want it to do, and then open up the code and look at it. And then that'll at least give you starting points for the exact syntax to use in the future. By all God, please don't use ChatGPT or Google AI Assist. It'll always try to give you an answer. It doesn't know half the time, and it lies, and it gives you wrong information. It'll tell you you can get the group name value of radial buttons. It's lying. There is no way to do that. It basically made up fucking syntax, so that's not real syntax. It's like, it is. Like, oh, it is not. That does not work. So no, please don't use ChatGPT or
Will these slides be available somewhere after this talk?
Yeah, I can put them up online. Let's see, what I can do is I guess on my LinkedIn, because that's public, I will link to a Google Drive and I'll make it a public link and I'll do that. Yeah, so I can do that and I can put all these slides up there. I can also put up most of those sheets. Some of them, I don't know if I'll put up all the sheets. Yeah, but some of them I can. I can definitely put up the silly map builder too if people that want to fix it and make it not run like butt. I'll meet you and have fun with it. Like, I don't care. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, so let's see, we've got some time. Oh my God, where's my mouse? There we go. So we can, yes.
Yes, questions. I'm making a game mod that is trying to fiddle around with some weapon damage values.
Sure.
And this seems like a great way to try and test some of those values. But I'm trying to figure out the exact formatting that I would need.
Sure. I know I saved this. They're just, okay. Yeah. So I mean, your mileage will vary.
Yes. My initial thought is since it has to deal with damage fall off, basically making a long, mid-range, and short-range testing, and then within each of those, you have if target is moving closer, target is moving away, and target is standing still. So then you just have 9 different results for each one. You could,
yeah, especially if you're gonna have hard thresholds like that, having a different result for each is one way to do it. The other way would actually be to modulate it across a curve. And feed in distance as a value to that curve, and then the damage will blend over time based on how close and far away they are. I would probably do it, just me, that's probably what I would do, but it depends on what you actually, how you want it to perform.
Okay. And, sorry, just taking notes here as well.
Yeah.
So, damage as, distance as a value?
Yeah, I would absolutely use distance as an input value, yeah. Yeah, like, let's see. Actually, I did most of my math I think in here this time. Surprising me.
And also, professional questions. I've been very interested in going into system design as well. And I have coding knowledge, but I'm definitely not a programmer or engineer. So I was wondering your advice on trying to get to the point where you are now, entry level stuff, what things to work on, et cetera, et cetera.
So something that I like to recommend to juniors and aspiring juniors, there is a book called Challenges for Game Designers. It's by Ian Schreiber and Brenda Brathwaite. And it's just amazing for like, I know I want to get better at this, what do I do? They wrote it actually for professionals who wanted to hone their craft, but it's phenomenal for students as well, where it's basically like a chunky ass book like this, and there's just like 300 exercises in it. Be like, hey, go do this thing. Here's a prompt, here's your constraint box, go build it. Sometimes there's a time constraint on it, sometimes there are other kinds of constraints, but it's invaluable for actually testing yourself and getting better, because the only way you get better is by doing. And these are, and they're tight little examples too, so you're not gonna be doing this massive like, week-long thing. They're intended to be done in like an hour or two max. So that's one thing to do. Another thing you can do, especially if you're interested in systems and kind of spreadsheeting things, is deconstruct your favorite games and your favorite game systems. And like you can start by tabulating out the data and then trying to work backwards from what the end results you can see as a player are. And then, and you're not gonna get the exact thing because like you can see some of our functions are ridiculous and there's constants and different powers everywhere. But you can start to approximate, well, how do you, I can tell that these are the inputs, I think. And I know these are the outputs. What are some possible functions and curves that I could create to try to replicate these results? So that's a good way to do it. And the other thing to do is just get more familiar with curve types in general, get more comfortable working with different kinds of curves. I don't know if I have this talk on this computer right now. I can, do I? No, I deleted it because I cleaned up. I can put this up as well, but basically, you know, linear curves are easy. Never use linear curve in your life. Exponents are great. Logarithms and natural logarithms are your best friends in system design. Do you know what an actual log looks like? That is, you know, that's basically the inverse of an exponent. So it has this beautiful curve that then starts to slow down and stop and it reaches like an asymptote. That is the science of like diminishing returns, which system design in a lot of ways is diminishing returns. As the player is something more and more and more. You don't want them to get more and more. You want it to start to diminish. So natural logs. And so then playing with those different kinds of curves, seeing what kind of results they give, and getting used to mixing them together.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Before I ask my question, one other follow-up too. Another place you might want to look into is Reddit's dedicated to gotcha games. Because
Yes.
a lot of them have very intricate Excel files with a lot of programming, and that can be a really, and since it's an Excel, you can open, you know, I assume those are open source, and you can just go into the guts and see what was their goal, and then how did they achieve it.
Yeah, some people have done the work too, so absolutely, go take their work.
But as for my question, so I've done some macro recording, but not for Excel, but for some of the open source versions of Excel, so LibreOffice and OpenOffice. Does VBS coding work for open source Excel, or is this very exclusive to
This
Microsoft?
is definitely Microsoft.
Got it.
Did someone implement it in there? I have absolutely no idea. I've never used LibreOffice. VBA itself is a Microsoft proprietary language that they've put in all their Office products. Yeah, so I don't know.
I've used LibreOffice, and some of the CVAs you can apply some of those languages to it. It's obviously different, but there are ways to kind of like go about it.
Well, there we go. Yes, there is a way to do it. That is not exactly this way. Yes.
So when you're allocating spaces for ranges, what happens when you need to move data around and you already set the ranges in? Okay.
That's exactly what you think will happen. You'll get an error 1004, data is out of range, and it's a useless little debug block. You're like, the fuck is that? Does it tell you where the range is? Does it tell you the index is out of range? No, it just says error 1004.
So how do you organize the data before you start implementing to
Well,
make
so-
sure you have space for like add-ons as well? Like
So that's why you want to use tables. If you use a table, like a formal table, let me bring this one up. If you noticed, there's only like 2 tabs on this sheet. I hid everything else because I trusted no one not to fuck with the data. But they're all here and you can unhide them. Here we go. Again, rainbows because unicorns. This is my data table for all the different units that can appear on those drop downs. And since it is a table, like actual like named table, I can insert new rows into this and new columns. As long as I keep referencing that data range body as like the actual table data, it can do that. If you add columns though, and if you are iterating over that data with like a column index number, you will have to go in and change all of those, unless you've done, not always, but yeah, if you start to change and reformat your tables, you do need to do a gut check on all your references. It kind of sucks, but yeah, that's also why you would use name ranges, because you try to protect yourself as much as possible in the future. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
What was that book called again that you were talking about?
It's called Challenges for Game Designers. There's also another good reference book. This isn't like a book for getting better, but it's a book for like when you're starting to do stuff, and it's to help you to know what you don't know, I guess is the best way to put it. It's called Patterns in Game Design, and let me get the guy's name because it's like Scandinavian and I always get it wrong because I can't remember it. This book is out of print, but it's available on, I don't know, the PDF. You can find it.
Also, local libraries. You can always do an interlibrary loan.
I'd be surprised, but if you can, that's amazing. Yeah, Patterns in Game Design, and the author, if you can find it, by all means buy it because it's the most phenomenal book ever. It's by Staffan Bjork. Looks like this. It looks glorious. It's got Sandcastle on the cover. Why? I don't know. It's a coding book. But this has like every known mechanic known to man that's ever been put into a game. He has organize these and cross-reference them based on like player tone and perspective and dynamic, and like, so if you're just like, I'm doing things with these mechanics, I really wish I had a feedback system that worked well with this. He's like, I got you, friend. Here's a list of the ones that work well. So it's a great reference book for just expanding your knowledge of like what are different kinds of things that games have done. It's dry, it is a reference book. It is not a fun read to just read back to front. I have, but it is invaluable for just being like, I need a reference book for patterns.
What's it called again?
Patterns in Game Design by Staffan Bjork. You know you got the right one because it's a sandcastle. Don't know why. It'd be lovely if it was back in print. If it is, I highly recommend it. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Yep.
So, this is like me going off of assumptions. As a designer, I would assume that the data sort of management and creation process is like the later step of the design process as a whole, if we think about the life cycle of a game.
Sure.
Well, is that correct, personally? Or like in the ballpark?
Let's see. So, I can only speak to how I tend to do things and how my team do things. You never want to create so much content up front and so much data up front that you're swallowing it and like you're drowning in it, because then it's harder to manage and it's harder to know if you've done the right thing. You do need a modicum amount of data to start with. As far as like organizing it, I do actually try to start to organize my tables out with intention from day one, and I've done it enough that I can kind of know what I need at the very least. But I do think it's important that you actually start from the very beginning thinking about how you're going to organize everything, because there's nothing worse than just kind of like doing a bunch of stuff and then you stop for a week or two and you come back to it and it's a mess. So whatever you're doing, make sure that it is organized at the very least that you can understand it. But I do tend to actually start to organize and keep my data with intention early on. That is also why sometimes I add bogus columns in the middle of these tables, knowing that I probably want some extra stuff in here. Like I added a note column here that's on like column 5. Just in case I wanted to repurpose that later, I could. I'll sometimes do that where I give myself outs. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, some of it's just experience, knowing what you're gonna need. And if you're working with like a lead, they should be able to give you some information. But otherwise, just kind of, so here, I didn't actually end up using all of these columns, but I wanted to, and like when I was doing the data, like the game logic for it, but I wanted to at least have it recorded here just in case I needed it. So like, you know, the amount of population drafted, we ended up not using that at all, but it's still here in case I wanted it later as a potential input. The domain did actually end up using, like what kind of, was it a land or air or water type thing? What type it was, 100% use this all the time. True count ended up being the exact same replica of this column, but I left it in just in case, again, I wanted to either repurpose that column or it needed to be different. So don't worry too much about having bogus extra columns. I would err on the side of having too much data and then only picking pieces what you need. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, that actually,
okay.
Like partially. I was gonna say, because no, I was gonna say my question kind of leads to another one.
Sure.
So no, that answered the first part, but then the second part is, you know, given the involvement of you in like Excel,
Yeah.
Is there another, at least for the initial process of the design phase, I guess, like when you were talking about, you know, the initial design stuff,
Yeah.
right? Which I mean, I'm assuming it's beyond data, right? Like
It
I've
is.
seen,
Yeah.
for example, mind maps, right? Or
Oh,
just
yeah.
documents.
I wish I had not deleted this other talk off my computer. Jesus Christ, I'm such a bad person. Yeah, so you are going to start at an ideation phase of some kind, and being able to like visually organize your data in something like a mind map or a flow chart. Core loops are super important for this too, and sub-core loops, because what it does at the end of the day, and I'm so mad I don't have this. Maybe it's in downloads. We can all hope. Don't look at my downloads. No, it's not. Oh well. What you want to do is import input-output resource flowcharts at the end of the day, and that's how you start. And so basically you're going to make a list of all your possible, like, well, let's say you're making up some kind of combat game. What are inputs? Possible inputs is really what you're trying to do, and you're just brainstorming. Maybe it's level, maybe it's the weapon attack power, maybe it's a character strength value, and also maybe his dexterity value. Maybe it has, like maybe the class has some extra power level. Do I want to incorporate the enemy defense? Do I want to incorporate my defense? You make a list of all the possible things you want, and your output's easy, it's damage, so that's easy. But then you're going to start to actually link these all up visually, almost like a mind map, and say, well, if this is important, level actually gates stats to some extent in my game, let's say. So actually, I don't need level because stats already is derived from level. So cool, I can get rid of that. I can just use stats. Same thing with like maybe equipment. Maybe I had a bunch of other like, inputs listed. But I'm like, actually at the end of the day, I just need this one value from equipment. Now I know I have these two values that are important, and I can draw like, actual lines between them leading to something else. And at that point too, you'd be like, well, but how important is, say, strength to weapon? I don't know. That's when you start to make a decision. Like, well, maybe I actually care more about my character's innate physical ability versus the weapon. So that needs to be bigger. So you can like, actually make that bubble bigger on the chart. So then when you're starting to make this flow chart out, it almost becomes a visual pseudocode for your algorithm that you're going to make. And you haven't even put data anywhere at all. This was just thinking through, as a designer, how do I want my possible inputs to interact together? So that's a very good exercise just to try. It doesn't work with every kind of system, but it is at least a good way to like start to get your thoughts down on paper and on concrete. And if you make it really pretty, it's really useful then to also give to other people on the team to help them understand how this crazy ass formula works and how you got here and how all the pieces of the game interconnect and flow together. Because people don't read, your dev team ain't gonna read. And even if you give them all of like the formulas, you're like, I just wanna know how important my character strength is to the final damage. You're like, look at the pretty pictures. You can see it's big. So hopefully that helps. But yeah, it's mind mapping and that kind of stuff is useful early on.
That's it.
All right, yay! Yes, look, it's a user form. You have a progress bar. Yeah, so anyway, as I said, there's oh, here we go. And we are, I guess, technically at time, but anyone who wanted to like look at this stuff, there is a bunch of code in here for how all of this army bullshit runs. That is, oh my god, it's so much code. There's so much code! Yes, if you want to play with it, you can.
You mentioned you were going to upload the Excel sheet somewhere?
I will. So what I'll do, there's the instruction button that no one ever clicked, and you can use these drop downs. Oh no, there we go. Yeah, to actually pick like the units that you want to go in there and like goof around with it and try to break it. I'm sure you can break the sheet. It's so old now. Yeah. So on my LinkedIn, what I'll do is put a link to a public like Google Drive, and then you can just go download directly from there. That would be the easiest. Yeah. So you can choose your dudes. And then if you scroll down, you can hit the rebuild formations button, which will then update whatever the heck these are with what you picked. They thought about it, did it. So this is that camera part that's actually now grabbing that data from a different and printing to a texture that's now slapped onto there. And then the run a battle button over there will actually then print out the results.
Oh, running
right there, yeah, yep. And so yeah, this is what we gave to QA to be like, is it right? We did actually find lots of errors that were introduced later in the code, not on initial implementation, that was all fine, but then as we changed things, added systems, notice combat, the numbers are wrong. And they're like, what do you mean the numbers? I'm like, well, I know for a fact the numbers are wrong because it doesn't match anymore. And so having that validation tool that you go back to even months or years later is like invaluable, because would we have ever caught it? Maybe.
Do you store the output somewhere?
You can. So I don't on this, I just erase it because I don't care. But I could have printed it out to like either a different sheet or to a PDF even, or to a report if I wanted to say hand off to publishing. Yeah, so you can do all these cool tools with Excel and you don't really need like a tool engineer. You can just do it yourself. This is complicated. This is probably the most complicated sheet I've ever built, but it doesn't need to be this complicated.
I like complicated.
Complicated is fun, yay! Yeah. So we're over time, but you guys are welcome to hang out and like poke around in it. I don't care. Yay.